Okay, Thursday edition of the After Show. Got Wink and Justice with you. Wink over here on the East Coast.
And Justice on the west coast of the contiguous United States. It is, thank God it's Giovedi.
Yeah.
This is what we call Thursday. Giovedi meaning Thursday in the Romance language of Italian.
Yeah.
And if you hear machinery in the background, it will only be briefly. There's machinery in the background. Oh, live radio. Hey, it's Thursday, the gateway to the weekend. Wink, how are you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. It's 65 and sunny out there. It's a little on the cool side, but it's very nice looking day out there. Nice little sunny day, which we don't get too many of up here in 21. Might get in the chat. Just go to netrootsradio.com. Scroll down the bottom of the page, and on the right-hand side of the bottom of the page, there is a link to the chat. So click that. Join us there.
And why don't you go ahead and take a gander to the leftish of the chat room link there at the bottom of the homepage, and you'll notice the contribute donate buttons, very integral part of keeping Resistance Radio, especially new Resistance Radio, alive and beaming 24/7. Thank you for that. Also, after show podcasts can be had not too long after the end of the show. The raw data file is available by way of Stitcher. Wink will post social media announcements about that.
Yep.
Later on, the perfected daily briefing or file, PDF. That's right, daily file, will be available, as I said later, by way of Podbean, iTunes, TuneIn, and wherever well-respected podcasts can be found.
Yeah.
Yes. Even not so respected ones. Yeah.
Exactly.
Sort of like a continuation on, the dilemma that one reaches at a certain point in life, because all the good women are taken, or all the decent women are taken.
Right.
And the indecent ones, I don't know, really don't want to have anything to do with an old guy like me.
Yeah, pretty much.
So there you go.
Yeah.
You can't get the decent ones, and the indecent ones are, I don't know, they're looking for more fun and games than we can provide.
Oh, yeah, no question about that, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Well.
Those acrobatics, I don't know, man, yeah.
Speaking of acrobatics, the so-called president of the United States had a campaign rally in Iowa. And I just got to say, there are people who love him. But,
I guess. They voted
for
him.
So I'm just saying that maybe it's a mistake to try to peel those types off. Because we're not going to.
No, not going to. Not
essentially, I mean, we need to come to grips that our neighbors hate us more than they hate Putin.
Yep.
Or anything, Putin taking over the country. They don't hate him more than they hate us.
Right.
They hate us more than clean air. They hate us more than health care. They hate us. Of course, we're the insensitive ones.
Right.
And we have to be aware of that. So I maybe those people, maybe, as anathema as this may be, maybe they're unreachable. Maybe we should not waste our time. So that's kind of a Thursday rant, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you're right. There's no sense even bothering.
He goes to Iowa, which is a third of their power is generated by wind power now, right? He totally disses wind power, and he's the generator of the most hot wind coming out of D.C. ever.
Yeah.
Right. And what does he do? He goes down there. He goes, "I am so glad to get out of D.C. Get out of the swamp." What?
Yeah.
And then he has the audacity to tell a bunch of blue collar types who voted for him because, I don't know, they need Big Daddy, right? And he says, I don't want any poor people in my administration.
Right.
You can't trust poor people. Of course, when he's saying that, none of those people out there consider themselves poor. Because what he is talking about, what they know he's talking about, is that when he says poor people, he means all those black and brown people out there taking your stuff.
Yep.
And you can't have those types in your administration. You need billionaires because they always make the right decisions. Like, money laundering out of a Cypriot bank or banks, Russian and Italian mob money, for instance. Now, that's a great decision, isn't it? Because he absolutely talked about Wilbur Ross. So who has done that? Well, if you hear a yapping dog, it's because there's a yapping dog. So,
yep.
Says it wasn't a campaign, but it was paid for by his reelection PAC. So can't trust anything that guy says. And this crazy like breathing through his he's looking like Mussolini. Where he kind of like breathes in through his teeth. Kind of gives that little downturn stretch of his mouth. What up? Okay, well, and of course we had Jay Johnson yesterday testifying in front of the Intelligence Committee, and so they hacked into actual databases, and they had basically American help in showing what these, one thing that we have maybe in our favor is the confusing montage of voting protocols in each state, sometimes even in each county. And so it's really hard to not only figure out what they are doing, but it's hard for them to figure out what they are doing too, right? And so they needed help. And you know what that help was? Well, of course, maybe data analytics firms like the Mercers have. Maybe the guy who just got appointed into the administration, who basically leaked 200 million specific identifying voting records on each of us so that you can micro-target. Now he has a position in the White House. Just by way of a little thank you. I know. It's just like distracting us from the real issues at hand. And I got to tell you, they're all real issues at hand. Because I have a question. Well, that's for a much longer discussion. Maybe on a Friday when it's almost anything goes. But if it turns out, now I know he's the lawful president, okay, and so he's there. But if it turns out that he's been put in there by subterfuge, and there's other instances of subterfuge and sabotage, and maybe actual denying people the right to vote. Presumably you didn't. Oh, you had a show last night because you wouldn't have been able to catch Rachel last night. Well, she right. You hear about voting systems are down in these 6 counties over here, and we were having a small glitch over here. And it matches up in the 21 states in which they know specifically, they being the intelligence community, Department of Homeland Security, cites exactly instances where there was problems. And what were those problems? Well, basically preventing people the ability to vote. And we're not just talking about getting turned away at the polls. We're talking about polls getting closed down because, we have just an electrical problem here. Sorry. Coincidentally. Now, I guess you could put on the tinfoil hat. But that's how it can be done. It doesn't have to be flipping votes. Everybody goes, it has to be flipping votes. No, it doesn't have to be that. And then it's not about just making sure this guy's in and Hillary not. We're talking about something else here. This guy is compromised. This guy owes money to a mob. And this is what he has to do to, I don't know, at best, keep some of his fortune. At worst, you know what they do, right? Sometimes it's falling out of a window while moving a piano.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's about that. So when I get these bots, there's sometimes people, of course, who say, "Oh, you're this Russian connection. You're saying that Hillary lost because." I'm not talking about that. We're talking about the money laundering, the decades-long business associations with mobsters. These aren't secrets. It's not even speculation. Considering the fact that, people have had lawsuits drawn against them and people have gone to jail for any number of reasons while in association with these fellows. So we're talking about, the guy's not fit to be president. He wasn't fit to be president to begin with. And now we have a mob operation happening in the White House. So my big question about this is that, well, what about the Zinkies? What about, the EPA guy, Pruitt? Don't they have to go also? I mean, weren't they appointed under color of authority that wasn't really there? Wow, talk about a constitutional crisis. I got to say, in my constitutional history and European law courses that I took as an undergrad, we really never modeled this scenario. Because it's always been the idea of what democracy is. It's an agreement. It's a handshake. No one would ever presume that the President of the United States would leak sensitive intelligence material to an adversary right there in the Oval Office and gloat about it. Oh, you want to kill some of our spies? Go right ahead. I hate them. They didn't like me anyway. And people were cheering him last night. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I love them. Right up here in New York
so my
21.
question is, do I need to like those people? Do I need to try to convince them of the error of their ways when basically they hate me more than they hate the Ruskies?
Right.
Which just goes to show, I don't know, there's some people who can be brainwashed quite easily. And that's an example of it. What's another example? Hearing the bullshit we've been hearing about, excuse me if this is on terrestrial radio, that we've been hearing about Hillary since, the late 80s, early 90s. The exact same BS on Nancy Pelosi. They can't even come up with new stuff. So, and I'm not in agreement that Nancy Pelosi is a drag on the Democratic Party. She's the greatest vote counter in the history of the Congress ever. And probably one of the best speakers of the House we've ever had. But, and I'll say this too, before, as we should be getting into these news stories for today. Okay. Handel didn't win necessarily because of well, I don't know, maybe we shouldn't the point I'm trying to make is that she didn't win because she was more popular and people liked her. They don't like her there. They think she's a carpetbagger. Okay. She won because, basically they hate us more than they hate all this other stuff. Your neighbors hate you. Okay. Thursday rant.
Pretty much,
Man.
Okay. Sadly.
These are the issues we will be attending to today, and they are the EPA. Yeah, Pruitt. Issues a warning about incense and scented candles causing asthma, while at the same time dismantling and delaying regulations on fossil fuels, methane in particular, that causes asthma. Yeah. Nothing says lifetime bans on lobbying by senior administration officials than a Trump appointee who has made almost $500,000 this year alone while lobbying for Saudi Arabia. And Senator Al Franken just wanted Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke to answer just one simple question. And all he got was stupid and ignorant nonsense instead. That's their plan now. If they don't say, well, that was like a private conversation with the president and that's classified, don't you know? Then they say, gobbledygook. Well, on the last half, we report that the meanest, most radical faction of the Senate GOP got to decide what happens to poor people's health care, so they decided to phase out Medicare as quickly as possible. Goodbye. And the Congressional Black Caucus refuses an invitation to meet with Trump that was sent by the Honorable Omarosa Manico. Honorable. Oops. All that. Plus the Connect, Unite, Act, Daily Coast community calendar and more on the after show with that ever so fine fellow over there on the East Coast. And his name is Wink, and this guy back over here on the West Coast. My name is Justice, and we do this 5 days a week for an hour-ish in this particular, specific, and very peculiar tear in the fabric of space-time, because who loves you, baby? Okay.
Exactly.
I don't know. I'm having somewhat of a Twitter war with people overseas who don't quite understand the way America works. Right. And of course, then there's also people here in the United States who really don't know how America works. Like the President of the United States, for instance. The thing is that he knows maybe as much, hopefully as much, but probably less than the people who applaud him about how government works. So, there's analyses lately that people who have been blocked by the President of the United States on Twitter, that's actually a violation of the First Amendment. Because free speech can only be violated by the government. So when the President of the United States issues edicts, proclamations, which is what he does on Twitter, and that's how we have to take it, because you can't have a microphone and a camera at the press conference anymore, Wink.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
So when he makes these proclamations and edicts, that when people are prevented from seeing them, their First Amendment rights are being violated. And people are going, oh, well, does that mean that somebody who just calls up at the White House hotline and they don't get to have a chat with the president, that their First Amendment rights are being violated? I said, of course not. Because the speech we're talking about is public speech. Just read the Constitution, And, of course, they don't even know where to find the Constitution. I'm talking about people here in America that applaud Trump. Or maybe they'll have to go to their church to get the pocket-sized one. The abbreviated one. First Amendment, we don't matter with that, except when we're going to talk about a free speech rally where we get to take our guns, wave our swastikas, and beat up a bunch of liberals because they're trying to keep us from our free speech and beating them up.
Yep.
If money is speech, I guess a fist is even more speech, right?
Hell yeah.
There you go. And nothing speaks as brutally as, a gun with bullets in it. That's almost sort of like rapid fire speech. Slow down. It kind of makes me nervous. Okay. We're blowing through today. I better get in on these stories. First article is by Natasha Geeling out of Think Progress. The EPA is charged with the protection of two things: the environment and public health. They just had two things to do, Wink. Two things.
Right.
Protect the environment and protect public health. But I think to Pruitt, the EPA means earn profits astronomically. I like that. Earn profits astronomically. Not for you and me. So it's no surprise that the agency would use its social media presence to tweet about asthma, something that, as of 2009, affected 1 in 10 children and 1 in 12 adults in the U.S. Now, asthma can be triggered by a number of irritants, from pollen and dust spores to pollution in the air. And as the agency that regulates air pollution, it seems like an EPA concerned about asthma would draw the connection between asthma attacks and pollution such as smog, ozone, and particulate matter. That, however, is not what the EPA has been doing. In 2 tweets sent from the official U.S. EPA account during the month of June, the EPA singled out just 2 potential triggers for asthma: incense and bonfires. Now, obviously, Burning Man has been having an adverse effect on the environment and is impacting not only America, but the world, Wink.
Apparently.
Because if you, I mean, there's not a bigger bonfire than Burning Man.
Right, right.
And that damn pyramid patchouli. It's bad enough that they got to wear it behind their ear as a elixir perfume. But then they got to burn that stuff. Damn San Francisco hippies. Well, blame it on them.
Oh, yeah.
San Francisco Burning Man hippies burning their patchouli pyramid patchouli incense. Damn. And they're costing everybody else jobs. Because obviously the brainwashed liberal believes that smog is the cause for asthma. What? See, everything's turned on its head, Wink. It either means that somehow there was like some kind of weird phase shift in the cosmos that turned everything backwards, or we are all in hell right now and then we're suffering our penance for transgressions in the previous life.
Yeah.
We did something wrong, Wink, to be suffering this. Something big.
Made a wrong turn somewhere, yeah.
Okay, well, the article goes on that they're delaying regulations on methane emissions because, you know, the science is out whether that really has an impact on asthma or air pollution. Okay, I'm serious. Because this is also on the heels that they got rid of the last scientist out of the Science Advisory Board, which is tasked to make sure that the EPA follows the best science that we have available. And the best science that we have available is obviously a liberal plot to take over America and turn it into some sort of rational state that could be the leader of the world. We don't want that. There's a new sheriff in town, and he comes from, I don't know, right around Moscow. Let him run the world. He's our friend. What? I don't know. Okay, well, makes me want to burn some pyramid patchouli just in protest. Maybe I will. Okay. Now, when Trump was in Iowa, and he was commiserating with the crowd about how bad the world is and how bad it is that these damn liberals with their darky friends have just turned this whole world into a sewer. And he was speaking about getting out of the swamp. Remember what he said about draining the swamp? That he's going to, like put lifetime bans on senior administration officials while lobbying.
Yeah, that lasted about a day. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it lasted about a day. Like, I think it never happened.
Right.
Okay, this is by Brad Reed out of Raw Story. An appointee of Donald Trump has earned hundreds of thousands of dollars this year alone working on behalf of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The Center for Public Integrity reports that Richard Holt, whom Trump appointed to his Commission on White House Fellowships, sounds like a fancy name for lobbying inside the White House to me. Here, we'll just dole out some money, and you bring us some, we'll give you some. Okay, come on. Jesus Christ. Has made $430,000 since January for providing the Saudi government with advice on legislative and public affairs strategies. You know, micro-targeting voters so that you can get your message out, and so that they think that liberals and Democrats are a greater threat to our way of life than people who behead people because they were driving a car while being a woman. Yeah, I know. That's a little bit of hyperbole.
Not much.
Of course, hyperbole by its very nature is not a little bit. You can't have a little bit of hyperbole. You have hyperbole. In an interview with the Center for Public Integrity, Holt insisted that he had never used his job as a White House Fellowships Commissioner to try to influence Trump on Saudi Arabia's behalf. That is not my role. I guess I'm an old-fashioned lobbyist. I know how to separate lobbying and not lobbying, meaning that, look, what we do behind closed doors and smoke-filled rooms is the way we've always done it. Come on, leave us alone. Are we doing anything different than we've always did before these damn liberals made all this transparency BS? Come on. The original intent of a fraudster is to defraud. Come on, we're just doing our job. We promised on the campaign trail we would. Yeah, well, instead, Holt claims that he's been paid to give the Saudis advice about how the American legislative process works. And he admits that he did directly contact members of Congress to talk with them about an arms deal this past spring, you know, the one that was the largest that we actually haven't bought or supplied them with arms just yet. Money hasn't changed hands just yet. But he had something to do with that, but that wasn't anything to do with influencing Trump on the arms deal, even though he was there to influence members of Congress and the American public about the arms deal. Of course, Trump, during the campaign trail, regularly attacked the role that lobbyists play in the U.S. government, and he vowed last fall to, quote, enact a lifetime ban against senior executive branch officials lobbying on behalf of a foreign government. Yeah. Well, on the campaign trail, he thought it was going to be Hillary winning. He didn't. It may be that he just didn't realize how much help he was going to get. Because if you could influence a few thousand votes here in this part of one of the 7 states or 3 states, the 76,000 votes that hung in the balance for the Electoral College.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay. A few thousand here not being able to vote, a few thousand there not being able to vote. Pretty soon you got 76,000 votes that people aren't really voting.
Right.
In swing states for the Electoral College. Who would know that? Data analytics and people who, okay. Because part of the hearings yesterday, Wink, also is that these efforts are ongoing. The brainwashing and propaganda is ongoing. So let's be clear. We are under attack. And it's our duty to not be brainwashed. And that also means not to be taken advantage by people that we think are our friends either. Because they may be collaborators, you never know. Or useful dupes.
Indeed.
Ooh, I better hurry here. Ryan Zinke. Yeah, I'd like to knock that cowboy hat off his head. Oh, I'm sorry. Is that... I don't mean that physically. I meant it metaphorically. And this is an article by Joe Rome. Ought to think progress. The president's... Oh, I'm sorry, we don't say the P word. Trump's cabinet may be filled with science deniers aimed at destroying America's livable climate, but they still don't have their talking points down cold. On Tuesday, Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke dodged questions from Senator Al Franken with nonsense and answers that one climate scientist called stupid and ignorant. Well, yeah, you don't even have to be a climate scientist to recognize that. At an Energy and Natural Resources Committee budget hearing, Franken first debunked Zinke's false claim that the vanishing glaciers at Glacier National Park have undergone a consistent melt since the end of the last ice age, explaining that scientists that work for you have found the melting has dramatically accelerated in recent decades. Then Franken tried to get Zinke to answer one question. Quote, can you tell me how much warming government scientists predict for the end of the century under a business as usual scenario, end quote. We don't do anything, just keep business as usual. What do your scientists predict as the end of the century? Of course, Zinke's non-answers repeat many of the standard falsehoods we've heard from Trump and his team, but he still managed to mangle most of them. At first, Zinke dodged its question entirely. The Paris Accord, he began, in the president, my judgment was about climate change. It was about a bad deal. Of course, in reality, Wink, the Paris Accord was an amazingly good deal for the United States because there was nothing set down in stone that we had to follow any of it anyway. It's just people promising that they'll try to meet these levels. Try. Obama wanted it, and that was good enough for him to get rid of it. Franken interrupted to ask Zinke to answer the question. In response, Zinke claimed, I don't think the government scientists can predict with certainty. There isn't a model that existed. It can predict today's weather given all the data. Of course, that's not what Franken asked. What's the weather forecast for the end of the century? Weather and climate are two different measures. Measuring climate has an accuracy because it takes in all the weather plus other factors. And they plug it in and they add it all up, and this is what happens. And that was a stupid and ignorant answer that Kevin Trenbeth told Climate Wire. That's the climatologist who said, that answer was stupid and ignorant. Long-term weather predictions are hard because on any given day, months from now, the possible temperature range could span tens of degrees Fahrenheit. But climate is much easier to predict precisely because climate is a long-term statistical average of weather. Year after year and decade after decade. There's no secret about it. In fact, it's not even rocket science. When you think about it, all the rocket science is about trajectory. I guess you think about propulsion too. But when you want to get from one point to another point, you got to think about drag and arc and gravity and all of that. Which even rocket science isn't rocket science. Well, I say they're convenient science deniers because, money is more important, or I don't know. I guess that's really what it gets down to. We won't worry about the damage we do now as long as we're making money now. We'll worry about the damage later, and probably we won't be around anyway, so what does it matter? All right, let's get to our Jim Hightower break. We'll come back, go over the Connect Unite Act Daily Codes community calendar, and then the last half on the after show. And you are listening to the after show with Wink and Justice, and we will be right back.
Good news, people. At last, congressional Democrats have gotten a clue, grown some spine, and are beginning to act like, Well, like Democrats. In particular, a majority of Dems in the U.S. House are responding to the rising public demand that decent health care be treated as a right for everyone, rather than being rationed by profiteering insurance conglomerates. Nearly 6 of 10 in the House have now signed on to Representative John Conyers' Medicare for All bill, which is being carried in the Senate by Bernie Sanders. So, hallelujah, progress. Yes, but there are many speed bumps to overcome before the Democratic Party gets onto the moral high road of politics. Representative Nancy Pelosi, for one. When the leader of House Democrats was asked if the party should make health care for all a major issue in Congress and in the 2018 elections, she replied with a flat no. Basically, Pelosi says the American people aren't ready for it, by which she really means that the narrow slice of the public that inhabits her world, health industry executives, lobbyists, and campaign donors, aren't ready. Meanwhile, a good 60% of regular Americans are damn sure ready, telling pollsters that our government has a responsibility to ensure that everyone gets the care they need. Let's be blunt. When it comes to the fiery leadership that America's grassroots people want and need, the Democratic Party establishment is weaker than Canadian hot sauce. When you've got 60% of your party's rank-and-file congressional members ready to go, and 60% of the public is also ready to go, it's time to go. The National Party's leadership must get going on health care for all, or the leadership itself must go. This is Jim Hightower saying, to help push both the party and the health care for all issue forward, go to nationalnursesunited.org.
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
Okay, we're back.
And indeed we are back, and thank you for sticking with us. This is the After Show with Wink and Justice. Justice here along the banks of the Rogue River, in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the West Coast. Wink is in upstate New York, 21 on the East Coast. Our crew are the ethereal creatures who reside in the cloud, whose advanced intergalactic technical abilities allow Netroots Radio, and thus by extension the After Show, to span the globe, the solar system, and out beyond all reasonable understanding of space.
Yep.
Even unreasonable understandings. We're beyond that, too. Today's Connect, Unite, Act Daily Goes Community Diary is facilitated as it is every Thursday by Paradise 50. And he begins his his diary with do-it-yourself car hacks. What are your favorite do-it-yourself car hacks? I guess I haven't really embraced the idea of like hacks. You know, when I've heard of like cooking hacks. I'm trying to figure out. Well, do you mean like when I use a wood rasp for a micro grinder or something? You mean like that?
Yeah.
So,
I guess.
But it's interesting. There's an Outback, one of these. Who makes Outback? Subaru, right? Subaru Outback that's missing a back bumper, and so they've chained up a big old log for their bumper.
Ah.
And that's pretty much of a hack.
Yeah.
Oh,
yep.
Wow. Well, there's some interesting stuff that people have done to customize their cars in any number of fashions. Yeah. I was thinking, I don't know, I wouldn't call it a hack, but I remember having to wire up my exhaust system so that it would stay intact and wouldn't like rumble as loud. And that fumes then wouldn't come like up into the passenger compartment as bad. That was kind of a car hack.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of which, you had a car that was almost like that, and you got a new one, and you're still okay. You're not getting carbon monoxide anymore.
No, we're not.
Car?
That other one was kind of killing me, I think. I don't know. I got clear lungs since I got into the newer car. There ain't no doubt, yeah.
Clear head, too.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
All right. Okay, so Wisconsin Cossacks have been forming their group, and if you'd like to become a member of Wisconsin Cosmail, Chris the Coladan. Or Cosmail. But I think it's Cos. Speaking of Glacier National Park, the Epic Glacier National Park meetup number 3 is occurring this year, June 30th through July 2nd. Thinking Fella and Ojibwa have been organizing that. Quite an extensive itinerary. And it's more than just a Winnebago camp out, trust me. This is serious. So, yes, Cosmail them if you'd like to take part. And the Daily Coast Cheers and Jeers annual dinner occurring in Atlanta, Georgia this year, Wednesday, August 9th, 5:30 p.m. at White Oak Kitchen and Cocktails, 270 Peachtree Street in Atlanta, Georgia. Cosmail Navajo to RSVP. And, yeah. I wonder what the humidity is projected for being on August 9th at 5:30 p.m.
Yeah.
98% maybe? We'll see. Yeah, there's big speculation that maybe, part of the reason Handle won is that, first of all, she never said anything about Trump whatsoever, right?
Right.
But she did try to align Ossoff with Pelosi and San Francisco liberal values. They even had a pretty funny advertisement about Ossoff riding a cable car, and they had these hippy-dippy types saying, oh, yeah, we want Atlanta, Georgia to be just like us. We're, like, loaded all the time. Oh, man, it's so fun. Free love. It's just crazy stuff, know.
Yeah.
But being a longtime San Franciscan and Bay Area-ite, I would say that people in Atlanta, Georgia would hate us for our freedoms from kudzu. They hate us for our freedoms. And one of those freedoms is like not having kudzu. And if you've ever been in Georgia, you'll know what I mean.
There you go.
Are you going to make it this year? I know that Roaring Girl's going to be there, and
no,
Arliss and Will.
I won't be able to make it this year, unfortunately. I'd love to go to that dinner, though. That Cheers and Jeers dinner is great. If you get a chance to do that, go do that.
I'm just saying that, see, kudzu is such, in a way below people's level of awareness in such that it's just there. There's nothing they can do about it. It's just going to, no matter what you do, it's going to be there. And you don't realize it until you're amongst it. And so I just, you would know from whence I speak if you went there, and then you would know why you would love the freedom from kudzu.
There you go.
If it was me, I would try to turn it into some sort of edible, maybe. I haven't really looked into that. I actually saw a documentary on kudzu, and maybe there's an astringent that prevents that, because that's one way to manage it. And the Mount Mitchell State Park meetup in Daly Coes, Asheville are having their August meetup, and that will be August 12th at Mount Mitchell State Park, 2388 State Highway 128 in Burnsville, North Carolina. Cosmail Randall to attend, and that is your Connect Unite Act Daily Coast community calendar for the 22nd of June, the day after the first day of summer of 2017. Okay.
Yeah, moving along. Yep.
Moving along. Now, the meanest, most radical faction of the Senate GOP got to decide on this health care. And one of those was a proposal made by one Mike Lee of Utah, who was also on the TV last night, part of the working group, who had said, I have no idea what's in this thing. Well, he may not have known, but they were taking this and they're taking some of that, and this is what we're getting, Wink. Yeah, Trump was in Iowa saying, Obamacare is dead. It's dead. Dead. I'm telling you, dead. And he just wanted to take off the care part of Obamacare. That's really what he was spitting and hoping for. Well, there's another big piece of machinery driving up the hill. I wonder what it might be. Well, we'll see, because it's getting pretty loud. Oh, it's the tiniest backhoe skip loader you've ever seen, Wink, but it's got a pretty I think they got glass packs on the thing. Make it sound racy. I think make it sound racy.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, this is an article by the great Ian Millhiser, Justice Editor at Think Progress. Maybe I should ask him if he wants to be my Justice Editor, because I might need one. Justice needs an editor. You know what they say? If you have yourself for an editor, then you have a fool for an editor.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
In a moment of extraordinary candor earlier this month, Donald Trump labeled the House Republican health bill mean and urged the Senate to improve the bill to make it generous, kind, and with heart. He won't get what he asked for. Well, that's how he was feeling that day. Then when he found out, oh, you mean we get to kick the people that voted for Obama? Damn right. Make those mofos suffer. Big league. A draft of the Senate version of the bill, which was written in secret with even many senators kept out of the loop, is expected to become public today. In the meantime, leaked details indicate that the meanest, least kind, or generous faction within the Republican Party won the fight over how the bill will treat Medicaid. Okay, I made a mistake. Medicaid, not Medicare. Reports indicate that the Senate opted for a proposal by Senators Pat Toomey, Republican of Pennsylvania, and Mike Lee, Republican of Utah, which sought extraordinarily deep cuts. The Senate bill will reportedly phase out the landmark health care program, which serves only 75 million Americans, only. And it will do so fairly quickly, because if you're going to do something, do it quick before people know, what the hell's happened. And while they're reeling, hit them again with something else. Oh, yeah. 1-2 punch. Then we're coming in for the knockout. Next thing you know, we're all dancing in a Russian jig. Ho, ho, ho. A Russian sword dance. Ho, 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 ho. He was taking practice when he was doing that Saudi Arabian sword dance, To explain, Medicaid is a federal-state partnership that is administered by state governments but largely funded out of the federal treasury. It provides coverage to many of the most vulnerable Americans, including the poor and many disabled and elderly patients. And Mercer's data analytic group said, by and large, these are people that voted for the black guy. I mean, look, we hate them. We hate them even more than Putin. Take over the government. Make them suffer.
Yeah.
Trump said, well, they're obviously not loyal to me. And if they weren't loyal to me then, how can I expect them to be loyal to me now or in the future? And what about their damn bratty kids? What's going to happen with that? I think we need to go find Vito, little Vito, chase him all over the boot of Italy until we find him. He's going to come back and get us. Okay. Currently, the federal government pays a set percentage of costs are rising under Medicaid, 64% on average, and then the states cover the balance, which I guess would be 36%. Too much, obviously, for the federal government to provide. Yep. The Senate Republican bill repeals this structure and replaces it with caps on how much money a state will receive each year. Moreover, Bloomberg's Sahil Kapoor reports the cap will effectively lose value over time. According to Kapoor's source, starting in 2025, Medicaid spending would grow at the rate of inflation, known as the CPIU. This is sounding suspiciously like the chained index file, Wink.
Yes.
When you get to a point where you get to afford the better type of cat food, we're going to have to cut you back because the good kind of cat food's too good for you. And then you go, well, I don't own a cat. And they say, exactly, that's exactly what we're talking about. You're eating too good a cat food. It's too good for you. Okay. Chain CPI, boy. Huh. One of the proposals that the Republicans insisted on, and Obama said, okay, we'll give it to you. Thank God we didn't get it, but I guess they really want it. Obama wasn't able to get it through. Maybe we can now.
Yeah.
Based on projections from the CBO, the cost of care for an individual Medicare beneficiary will increase 4.4% per year. Meanwhile, the general inflation will grow closer to 2.4%. So with each passing year, states will have fewer real dollars to spend on health care for millions of their most vulnerable residents. Over time, the entire Medicaid program will effectively phase out. I don't know. Maybe just in time for one of Putin's friends to come over here and buy up great swaths of land for the minerals that they might have underneath. The House bill used a fairly complicated structure to determine how much each state's Medicaid funding would increase each year, but states could opt for a cap, which grew at a rate close to, although probably still slower than Medicaid inflation. Oh, I must also report that, when Trump talks about, Obamacare being dead. He starved funding, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And then he talks about, insurance companies just like leaving Obamacare in droves. And where are they leaving? From the red states that didn't opt in on Medicaid for all. Or, for Medicaid expansion. Because the black guy wanted it. Can't have that. And anybody who voted for the black guy obviously needs to be made to suffer. But we're the insensitive ones, Wink. Just so you know.
Yep.
With Toomey and Lee driving the ship, the Senate is reportedly poised to wind down a program that serves only 75 million Americans. Admittedly, this winding down will be gradual, but it will be much less gradual than it would have been under the House bill. Mean. And essentially, I think what Trump would say is that, it's mean in its generosity and kindness. So mean.
Yeah.
But it has heart.
Exactly.
It really does, because, the people who wrote this bill are passionate on kicking it to people that are down,
Yeah.
Can't have more heart than that in this administration.
Tough love, I guess they call that, yeah.
Yes. This next article is by Jeremy Berkey out of the San Francisco Chronicle Business Insider. The Congressional Black Caucus will reportedly reject an offer to meet with Donald Trump. Omarasa Manigault, a former contestant on The Apprentice and now White House aide, extended an invitation to each of the 49 members of the group, which Politico published a copy yesterday. And I have to admit, I had great fun with it on social media. As requested by the president, we would like to schedule a follow-up meeting with the entire membership of the Congressional Black Caucus to discuss issues pertinent to your members, the invitation read. Manigault signed the invitation, the Honorable Omarasa Manigault, which members of the CBC told Politico irked them, as they felt she had not earned the title. The honorable title is normally used to refer to sitting members of Congress, cabinet officials, and federal judges, though it's not commonly used to refer to White House aides. Well, the CBC met with Trump in March, though sources close to the group told Politico that the meeting would just be a photo opportunity rather than a constructive dialogue. So some people are saying it's not the honorable part, but they don't want to be part of a photo op with this con man.
Right.
Manigault, whose official title is Director of Public Communication in the Office of the Public Liaison, has been tasked with helping the White House reach out to black communities and members of Congress on both sides of the aisle. But the members of the CBC said she's done little to raise their issues with Trump. Well, of course not, especially after Trump's budget proposal didn't include additional funding for historically black colleges and universities. Because the black guy liked that, and we can't have anything that the black guy wanted, don't you know? CBC's chairman, Representative Cedric Richmond, wrote a letter addressed to Trump yesterday rejecting Manigault's invitation after an earlier meeting with Trump in March proved not to be constructive. We took advantage of every opportunity to educate you on the needs of the black community and provide you with information and solutions necessary to act on them in good faith, Richmond said. Through an objective assessment, we have seen no evidence that your administration acted on our calls for action, and we have in fact witnessed steps that will affirmatively hurt black communities. It has become abundantly clear that a conversation with the entire CBC would not be entirely productive, Richmond added, saying that the CBC's concerns have fallen on deaf ears in the White House. And I'm pretty sure Trump says, yeah, what's the prob? Affirmatively hurt black communities? Damn right. I've been doing this since before I was an official landlord in my dad's business. It comes like a second nature to me. He further listed 8 letters, he being Richmond. The CBC has written Trump calling for action on issues ranging from the Republicans' Obamacare repeal bill to Attorney General Jeff Sessions' review of the Justice Department consent decrees, which Richmond said has fallen on deaf ears in the White House. The CBC and the millions we represent have a lot to lose under your administration, Richmond said. And, of course, since we like to finish the sentences here on the after show, Trump basically said, damn right, you have a lot to lose.
Yeah.
Exactly. Feature, not a bug.
Right.
All right. We're at the end of our broadcast period here on the after show for Thursday. We'll be back here bright and bushy tomorrow. We'll be following David's show. I believe he's working on a live recorded show for tomorrow right now. And so we'll follow him. We'll have, of course, Hartman coming up about 6 minutes after the hour. And we'll listen to, we'll listen to Tower of Song by Leonard Cohen in the interim. Stay tuned to Netroots Radio 24/7, 365. And why? Well, because who loves you, baby? Okay, Wink, I will see you on the other side.
All right. We're out.